Hi everyone, I'm happy to virtually welcome you all to today's ad art show, POV from MVVO Art. My name is Emily Anastasi from the MVVO Art team, and it's my pleasure to introduce the last episode of a series hosted by Debbie Wells of Artful Circle, featuring David Strange, Ad Art Show 2020 Winner Spotlight. Welcome everyone, let's get started. Oh, and to introduce, this is David's work on the screen, and you can go out and check it out on his Artsy page at artsy.net/artist/David-Strange.
Thank you, Emily. My name is Debbie Wells, and yes, you very nicely showed some of David's artwork on the screen so everyone can know a little bit about what we're talking about. And we also are going to use this opportunity to get to know you, David. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, well, first of all, I know that you're from North Carolina originally, so why don't you just tell us about, what it was like growing up there and what kind of interests you had as a child living in North Carolina.
I was born in North Carolina. Not so much race. I mean, I have family from a little bit everywhere from East Coast and the South. My earliest memories were getting up really early in the morning, getting Burger King French toast sticks, a 4-piece French toast sticks from Burger King early in the morning, and then going to my grandmother's house on my father's side and staying there until my mom got off work. So like most of my early childhood is just having like many mothers in a way, because my mother, she worked all the time.
And your father was an Army vet, correct?
Yeah, my dad is an Army veteran who served at Desert Storm a while back. And the thing was that war really messed him up after a while. And, my dad wasn't the same dad, fast forward till I was 7 and started like going to like art programs and getting into ballet and sculpture. My dad started to be like in and out of rehab a lot. So it was tough to like recognize that later on, because I didn't recognize that until I was about 14, 15.
So even though you had that rough experience as a child with your dad, it sounds like your parents still did encourage you to do all these creative pursuits.
Yeah, my mom just wanted me to stay in school. She was like, I don't care what you do.
She's a good mom.
Yeah, just do school. Don't go to jail. Don't get involved with crime. Just go to school. Yeah,
well,
that was my mom.
Sounds like that worked.
Yeah.
So now you have some other siblings too. Why don't you tell us about your whole family life, because you're an only child, but you have extended family as well. So how did that influence just how you expressed yourself as a child too?
I think I got a little more freedom being the youngest, and like my mom was more experienced with children. She was like, all right, you're the last one, whatever. Like I've been through this rodeo before with 2 other kids, and my sister and my brother are about 10 plus years older than me. So I was getting a lot of experience from my brother. He influenced me a lot with cars, because my brother loved cars, and he also into music. And my sister, she's into writing. She spends a lot of time with books in the library, and she's done pretty well academically. So yeah, so it rubbed off on me. Like it kind of like sped up my life in a way, like a time capsule almost.
So how old were you when you moved to New York and you got to see what the East Coast is all about?
My family moved around the East Coast a lot, but me being in New York by myself, I was like 17, 18, my first time in New York, just by myself. And it was the craziest thing. And it was really, really late at night. I was in like Sunset, Brooklyn, and I was walking up those hills, and I can hear people arguing in their apartments. No, turn this light out, turn it. And I thought it was the craziest thing, just be out there by myself.
Well, New Yorkers definitely have their own way of communicating, their own style. So now
Yeah.
that you've been living in New York for a while, do you consider yourself a true New Yorker?
Oh, for sure.
Now you live in the East Village, right?
Yeah, I can't think of any other place. I was talking to a fellow artist, Shao, and we were talking about what is American culture,
Hmm.
and the only place we could think of is New York.
And
No,
it's so
really,
different from the rest of the country.
right? Really, what is American culture? Like we're spending all this time in politics trying to figure out what's American culture, but it's New York, the melting pot.
It is a melting pot. That's really true. So it sounds like you found your place in New York, which is fantastic, and you're here to stay, which is even better. Have you been to the Oculus yet to see your work on display?
No, no, I haven't yet.
Got to get there.
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there easily. I'm gonna eat it up. I'm gonna watch all the amazing art. I want to go. I want to go soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have till the end of the month, till then, and then after that, all the work is being sold on Artsy, so you'll get to see the show virtually too. Okay, so just going back to some of your creative pursuits and some of your inspirations for your work, we got to see a little bit of it, but I just want to hear the meanings behind it. So I know that you're a big art, you're really into art history. And
Yeah.
was that part of the thinking that went into doing some of your work?
Yeah. Every day I'm studying. Like I'm trying to discover new styles that I haven't seen.
Mhm.
Uh, my earlier work is it has the outsider feel to it. Uh, some mix of the 80s expressionists,
Mhm.
late 70s, 80s expressionists, and one outsider, Melvin Way, that I feel that is very obscure. Melvin Way and Mr. Imagination.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah,
and what
uh,
about the people that are even earlier than that? Like you've actually told me that people like Monet inspired you, or Rothko too.
yeah. Rothko and Monet for sure. But I like to pay attention to the Capricorns, like
Okay.
Matisse. Um, yeah, Matisse. I think Avant Munch is a Capricorn too.
Oh, I don't
But
know.
yeah,
You talking about
yeah.
Scream?
Yeah. I think it's Capricorn too. Cezanne is a Capricorn. I like to pay attention to those certain aspects to her because it can relate to my life, and I can also see like what they did different in those times
And
and
not
why they
just
stood
from
out.
your spiritual astrological connections, you also have a pretty big art book collection. Is that so?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
tell us about some of the books you have.
Uh, Antoni Tapis, uh,
Mhm.
Lucio Fontana, uh, Giacometti.
Mhm.
Uh, let's see. I just added Pierre Soulages. I was looking for that for a while, and I got to brush up on my French to read it.
Where do you put all these books in your apartment? I can't believe you have a lot of room.
It's just like a shelf, just a small shelf in the corner over there. The dark corner is a shelf with just art books.
Well, I think that's really great that you look inside yourself and you read the books and all that. But I also know from our conversation previously that you like numerology and those kinds of symbolic things, and you incorporate that into your work. Can you talk us a little bit about what numerology means to you?
Oh yeah. One of my early mentors when I really stepped foot into like the art world game was a bit of a cultist. He was like this old wizard. He was about 40 something, mid 40s, whole hair full of gray, and we would just talk about Ivan Albright and a lot about death and spirituality and a lot about LSD and just different things. And I got deep into numerology because my birthday, and I started to add up my birthday, and I started to see palindromes a lot. So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, you know, I want to stay a step in. I want to keep my foot in reality, but also it's this other part that I can't explain where this stuff comes from. So now I want to use numbers to kind of explain where this stuff comes from, you know?
And I think the number 0 means something to you from your
Oh
childhood.
yeah.
Is that, why don't you tell us that little story?
Yeah, yeah, 0. No, 0 is important to me because
I
no matter
know.
what you put with 0, it's going to be 0. And I think that's the most individual number ever. There was a test. It was a test I had, and every time I would take a math test, I would just put the answer. I wouldn't care. I was like, oh, this is the answer. I found the answer. And I get my test back and they all have zeros on them because I ain't explained my work.
Mhm.
And
But were your
now that
answers correct? Were your answers
yes,
correct?
they were all correct. They were all
Okay.
correct. There should have been a 1 and a 0 in front of it. But the thing is, it taught me a lot about society, how we have to kind of prove ourselves all the time. We got to constantly prove ourselves. Even if we know the answers intuitively, spiritually, or just, with pure rationale, we have to prove ourselves, And I kind of like stepped away from that,
Well, it looks
I
like
s
using your colors and your numbers and all the little symbols in your work shows that
yeah,
you are sharing your inner thoughts, like the process with people.
yeah, yeah,
Now, somebody else that's famous does something similar, and I'm sure that you've gotten compared to him before. And I'm sorry if I'm being way too cliche, but your work does remind me a little bit of Jean-Michel Basquiat. And
yeah.
I was just wondering if you used him for inspiration or even see the similarities in your work.
Yeah, I think the way I kind of forged my own path in the art world is similar. And also, like, when it comes to painting, like, that's like the echelon. Because I see now, like, in New York, a lot of people stepped away from, like, just painting because of that scene. Because of Jean Michel, because Keith Haring, because all these people who actually reached the peaks of painting, they actually showed you like, look, we don't have photography to rely on anymore. We just have to rely on our experiences and what's in our mind, you know?
Hmm.
And yeah, a lot of it inspires me, a lot. I think, sometimes I see it as an honor and sometimes I see it as uh, like the comparison disrespects the unique context that wills every moment, you
Well,
know?
when he or you puts your artwork, on display, and it has all these inner thoughts, like you were saying, composed on the canvas. What do you think people are getting out of it? We know what you're putting into it, but what do you think people are getting from it? Like, why do you think people are interested in your work? And obviously they are, since you're one of the winners of the art show.
Uh, I think it's more so is it could be rebirth. It could be uh, hmm, what? That's a tricky one because it could be so many things. It could just be the colors itself. I think it's more so the lines are not constrained. I try to make it as less constrained as possible because I see so many constraints
Well, I
and
think the
just
flow of consciousness that you have in your work, obviously it appeals to people. Maybe they're adding their own thought process to it also.
yeah, and I want to leave room for interpretation because I think
Mhm.
that that's what brings the audience with the artist. It's not just me just being somewhere alone painting these things and then it's people just reviewing. It kind
Mhm.
of puts the bridge there.
So now when people, the type of people that buy your work, is it mostly, are you doing it through virtual? Are you doing it through private patrons that follow you? How are you building your career?
It's more so private patrons. Like my first sale was this criminal justice attorney turned photographer and he saw one of the faces, and he was like, "Oh, I like this. What can you tell me more about this?" And I told him like that's just a universal symbol for any emotion that you have, and it can play as a mirror, even though it's not your face. And he was like, "I like that. I want this." And at the time, my first show, they thought I was crazy pricing it as $500. Are you crazy? $500? No one's gonna buy that. And
Mhm.
someone brought it. So most people that buy, they're either somewhere in their careers where they want to speak to inspiration. Uh, yeah. And then there was a couple that's at Netflix. I still haven't got in contact with them yet. I want to send them a flyer or something, but
Well,
yeah.
now you had told me that, obviously, like you mentioned, you have a lawyer who's one of your patrons, and people of all different levels of appreciating art. When you price your work, do you do it on a sliding scale? Like, how do you decide how to price your work?
Uh, yeah, I did it on a sliding scale like this past month, but now it's more so. It just depends on the person because I recently, when I dip into like fashion stuff, when I feel like their energy, I don't really think about it anymore. So I want to apply that to how I sell artwork. Like if the energy's right, and I know a little bit about the person and what they do for the community and things like that, sure, I'm open for negotiations. But other than that, I don't know. I'd rather price it really high until I feel that energy. And then I'm like, oh, there's
Right.
no problem here.
Well, it sounds like you've got the makings of somebody who's successful. You've got the confidence. You've definitely branded yourself into a certain style and a certain message. And I think that comes across. So now tell me about how you took, obviously you were doing just fine, making a full-time career out of your fine art, but obviously you found the time to apply to the ad art show. And I'm just curious what made you apply and what was your motivation once
Uh,
you found out more about it?
uh, we were talking like maybe a year and a half ago. I was like raising some questions about it, like, oh, what's this? This looks
Mhm.
interesting, but I never followed through with it. And then the pandemic hit, and then everything's just like, where did all the art go? Where did everything go? And I remember I was looking through my messages and I saw MVVO, and I was like, whoa, this is a circle we never completed. So let's try something. And I sent a message, and we just went from there.
And look what happened. You ended up being one of the winners. So
Yeah,
the pandemic's been good to you.
yeah. I guess. I guess. Yeah.
So now that you're one of the winners and your work will now be, as everyone else's, will be on Etsy. Not Etsy, I'm sorry, Artsy,
Yeah. Etsy's
Artsy.
not a bad site either. I
Oh,
found some
that's
good
true.
stuff on Etsy.
That's true, but
Yeah.
it's easy to get them mixed up sometimes. But anyway, so your artwork is going to be on that, and and you and a lot of other people will now have their artwork open to people from all over the world, really, because it's an internationally sought after site. So, do you think that your client base might grow because of the exposure that you're getting from the Ed Art Show?
Yeah. Yeah. I want people to feel more confident and less intimidated to ask about prices, even though the
Mhm.
prices are they're my prices. I want people to feel less intimidated. I want them to feel more confident into just inquiring about art in general, because I think people are like missing the point that art is about continuing the momentum of inspiration through our lives. When we look around, we need these inspirations to keep us pushing, pushing, pushing.
And I
So
think that the having the artwork online so it's accessible to everyone, that will at least open the door for
yeah,
them contacting you and then having a conversation.
yeah,
And it sounds like you're ready for it when they do.
yeah, yeah.
So
We
now
get a
you'll
drink, hang out a bit, depends.
have so do you feel that there is a difference between a conversation that you have in person versus the digital? Do you think you can still express what your artwork is all about in this way?
Nah. This is something magical about the in person, you
Uh-huh.
know? I think both should be used. I think it should be like, okay, the digital is the test, you know, you can feel it out, you know, but
Mhm.
you should also take the deep dive and go see for yourself all the amazing artists. Like you should really like dive deep and see them, you know, as close as you can, because that feeling and that those hairs stand up on the back of your neck is you can't really get that as easily like digitally.
Well, I have to admit, while you've been speaking, I am looking behind you at some of your artwork, and some of it has been speaking to me. So are all
Oh,
four
that
of
one.
those yours? Mhm.
Yeah, this one right here. You like this one?
I
We
do.
we could talk after the show, you know.
Well, you're a good salesman too, an artist and a salesman. Very, very good. Anyway, okay, so I think that we've given you a very good jump start. And I think that you are really already successful on your own. And I hope that the MVVO and the Oculus show is going to expose you to more people. And I think it's fantastic. I hope that you're as happy with the results too.
Yeah, they're a good team. I like good teams. You know, I like good teams. Like people who just gel together. I like that. They work
Good.
really
Well,
well together.
you know what? Art is a community, and any way that we can figure out how to talk to each other, you know, creative people all find each other one way or another. And just, you know, just the way we're talking right now. And again, when anybody goes to the Oculus, and well, this year I heard that it's a little bit less of a crowd because of the pandemic, but you know, millions of people walk through that building. It's really quite something. And it'll be up there for a whole month, and the show won't be over then because it's going to live on through Artsy. So anyway, David, I want to congratulate you on your win, and it
Thank
was
you.
a pleasure
Thank you.
getting to know you a little bit better. And thank you very much.
Cool. All right, Debbie.
Bye bye. Back to Emily.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, David, for a really great conversation. And thank you everyone for tuning in on today's live stream. I encourage you all to first, of course, go to artsy.net and check out David's work and inquire about some of his work and purchase it for yourself. And of course, make sure you tune in tomorrow for the next segment in a series hosted by Bennett D. Bennett, principal of Aerialist and co-founder of 600 and Rising, titled Don't Silence Our Voices, featuring artists from Don't Silence Our Voices, Stephen Kogel, Renee Primrose, and Malik Roberts. I encourage everyone to go to our website and view our fundraiser and custom ink and buy a commemorative branded t-shirt to support City Harvest during Hunger Action Month. And if you get a chance, make sure you go to the Oculus, the Westworld Trade Center, and see the Ad Art Show 2020 come to life on the screens. While you're there, make sure you get a free coffee and dessert at Italy.